I wrote that down. Good evening, everyone. Happy Saturday, and welcome back to the Stu Sells 1824 Halifax Classic here at Halifax Curling Club. If you're tuning in, you're going to be seeing Manuel facing Stuart Thompson. Quarterfinal action on this evening. All sheets are busy with the quarterfinal games. My name's Selena Thompson, joined by Jeff Wilson once again. We had the 8 o'clock draw last night, and we are the lucky winners of the 8 o'clock draw tonight. Welcome
That's okay.
back,
I don't
Jeff.
have weekend plans anyway.
You watch curling on TV normally,
right.
And so
that's right. Where else would I want to be?
this is what we're doing. We'd like to thank presenting sponsor Steel Subaru, of course, this year, and our partner sponsors Superline Fuels, Stu Sells Realty, and Clark Painter with Manulife Securities. And if you're watching us, big shout out to 360 Live, our technical producer, and you're probably catching us on CBC or Bell TV 1. And we are grateful to have you watching. Should probably get you introduced to the teams here, as we are a couple rocks down.
We're about to see the yellow team throw. That's Team Manuel. Manuel skipping, Luke Saunders throwing third, Jeff Maher playing second, and Ryan Abraham playing lead. And they are facing off against Team Thompson playing the Red Rocks, Stuart Thompson skipping, Kendall Thompson playing third, Colton Steele playing second, and Michael Brophy playing lead. We're seeing a pretty straight up end so far. First rock was drawn into the house intentionally, and then we've had some nose hits since. We're at that point now where a nose hit might end up with a guard out in front, and we might see some action after that. Colton Steele about to deliver his first rock of the end.
Both these teams not really afraid of getting rocks in play, but I think things change a little bit when you get into the playoffs. We're in the money now, and if you lose, you're out. So they're a little more cautious here as we watch. Colton Steele makes contact, but the shooter is going to roll out. They wanted to roll, like you said, in, not leave the rock out front, the shooter.
Yeah, and this weekend we saw Matt's team qualify through the B side, and Stuart's team came through the C side, so Matt gets to start with the hammer.
It's always a nice thing. You don't have to throw that draw to the button for hammer before the game. Just qualify ahead of the other team. And that meant Team Manuel also got to choose rock color, and I think I was hearing the players, a lot of the teams chose yellow rocks.
Yeah, if you had the choice on sheet 8 here, you were picking yellow, is what we're hearing. After Colton cleared that rock out of the house and rolled out, Matt's decided to throw a corner guard just to try and get some action going here in the first end.
No messing around. Stuart's asking Colton for the peel.
That didn't last long.
I mean, he's got to make it. He's pretty good at these, though. We've seen Colton playing third for a number of years for Stuart, but two teams, the two brothers, joined forces this year. Kendall came in at third, Colton moved to second, and Kendall's lead, Michael Brophy, stuck with the team. And for Team Manuel, Matt came out of juniors a few years ago and has played with Luke Saunders, I think just for 1, maybe 2 years.
Yeah, 1.
And Jeff Maher, aging out of juniors, has joined, as well as Ryan Abraham. Ryan used to play with Matt in juniors as well. And Luke played with Stuart.
That's good, Jeff.
So they're pretty familiar with each other, both teams.
Yeah, they are, and there's a lot of success on these two young teams as well. Lots of appearances at the Canadian juniors representing Nova Scotia. Kendall represented Nova Scotia at the Canadian mixed and was the finalist there. So there's lots of experience on the sheet, even though they're both young teams.
So things are clear, but no point in coming into the rings. I think Luke's still putting up a guard here. Just move it around.
It'll be interesting to see tonight, Selena, how effective the sweeping is. Remembering our game last night and talking to the teams after the game was over,
Yeah, you're fine.
they felt like they were dragging it wherever they needed to with the sweeping. So you just have to be close with the weight, and the sweepers can put it where you need it to go, which is really a nice surface to play on.
Yeah, there were rocks where they were thinking maybe it wouldn't be in the rings and got it to the 4 foot, so it sounds like about 6 feet. And of course, Luke proved me wrong. They did call that one into the ring, so it's a straight hit here on third stones for Kendall.
Clean. That's probably good speed.
Looking for the nose, and they'll get it.
9.5.
Calls just a nice, easy hit weight here for Luke. Not doing anything fancy with the lower weights yet.
Right up!
They pick this one up right away as soon as Luke lets it go.
Hard, Ryan!
We've got Ryan on it the whole way down. They're just cleaning now, so it must be close to the nose.
It's not full on that.
A little snug on the line. You can't really get away with that. We saw some shots last night, and it'll be nice to see if the ice is consistent like that again today, where if you weren't full to the broom, it was pretty unforgiving and they would take off. But if you were full to the broom with a little extra weight, it was not going to curl.
Yeah, and we saw that curl everywhere on the sheet. I can remember one end where it looked like there should be an open draw for an extra point somewhere, and they elected to hit because they thought it was going to curl too much everywhere for them to be able to get in.
Give me that in turn, Ryan. Give me like an inch off the rock. I'll throw you 9.5. Play it a little safe.
Just a couple more nose hits. Sometimes these ends are really helpful for the skips to see the ice and just get the feel before they start to get things more complicated, make some draws and some come-arounds.
Thank you, sir.
Hits and rolls. Just looking across all the sheets here right now, we've got all 4 sheets going, all 4 quarterfinal games, and we have all 3 Atlantic provinces represented here. Teams from Newfoundland and Labrador, teams from New Brunswick, and teams from Nova Scotia.
And there weren't any PEI teams in the field, so all the provinces that participated are represented. If you're watching online, you can check the scores. Team McDougall versus Gushue. McDougall qualifying out of the C bracket, Gushue out of the A bracket. They're on sheet 1.
I think I like that one.
Grattan versus Murphy, both qualifying out of the B. They are on sheet 2. And Skanes versus Dexter. Skanes qualifying out of C and Dexter out of the A bracket.
Yeah, 9.5 would have been right on the B.
And of course, we are here in the Atlantic provinces, we are allowed to travel in between province during the COVID-19 pandemic without having to isolate for 2 weeks. Any travelers from outside of the Atlantic bubble are required to isolate for 2 weeks, which is why we don't see teams from outside of the Atlantic provinces here this weekend. Glenn Howard is the 2-time defending champion, the only champion of this Bonspiel as it's in its 3rd year. And Glenn wasn't allowed to come see us this year and give it a go at 3 in a row.
Oh, wow, yeah.
He would have liked to, I'm sure. It's interesting to see what all the different provinces are doing, and of course the greatest cautions being taken. We have so few cases here in the Atlantic provinces, not none, but so few that our regulations allow sports without masks or distancing up to, I think it's up to 50. We don't have 50 people out on the ice, but once they come into the club, the masks go back on and protocols come back in place. So feels like a little bit of normalcy out on the curling ice right now, which is very nice to see. As Matt throws for the blank here.
Hard. Right up. Hard.
Just good enough for the blank. I imagine we'll see both teams try to muck it up a little bit more in the second end.
didn't quite get to you. Just didn't quite get to you.
I don't think Gushu and McDougall got the memo about keeping the first end
throw.
clean. It looks like there's about 100 rocks in play over there.
Yeah, and they started well before our game did, but a little more thinking to do, huh?
Michael Brophy throwing his first rock here in the second end.
As is line.
And if you're watching and didn't
I
know,
don't think you're going to straighten
we
it
are
up at
on
this
sheet
point.
8. Halifax Curling Club
Oh,
is
good
where this
save.
event is played. It's the oldest
Nice shot.
continuously operating club in Canada, established in 1824. So we don't have 8 sheets here, but the sheets are numbered according to the year the
founding
club
year.
was established.
Yeah.
Home to the first Canadian Brier winner, the McDonald's Brier, in 1927.
Oh, Grant.
And I've seen it upstairs. The club houses
that was for the
the trophy, which was a tea service. So there's a set upstairs.
How things have
Behind
changed
glass.
from tea service now to, I think it's a beer stein
Yep.
for Brier winners.
4 sheets of ice, and just around 300 members. Healthy membership for a 4-sheet club.
That's good, Jeff. That's good.
You see Ryan Abraham's here. His rock, they were attempting to come around the center guard, and his rock has ended up wide open in the back gate. We did see Ryan struggle early last night with his weight enough that I made a comment on it. And then I think he must have heard me because I think he made every draw after that. He just kind of really clicked in with the team and got them sweeping on some and started putting the rocks in the right spot. And it was around the time where they really took control of the game, which is good for Ryan that he was able to kind of start that change.
I guess that's why you're making the comment now. Get it early, huh?
Yeah,
A little
exactly.
heavy there on that one.
Just a hit and roll away there. It's still behind the tee line. Not worried too much. Stewart isn't worried too much about the hit and roll in behind because it would be behind the tee line.
Yeah, both teams happy to keep it away from the center and let the rocks stack up and build up a little higher in the rings for now.
Whoa! Right off. Luke, try to hit this.
This
Okay,
one's hanging
okay,
wide.
You got it.
Hoping
a
to curl back
piece?
across and get a piece.
Yeah. Just not
Tee.
good. Not good throws.
Doesn't take too long for Stewart to make that call. Not really any other choice. You got one guard, you don't have hammer, and it's a center guard, so come around.
Just another low-risk opportunity for Team Thompson to learn the ice, learn the weight, feel what it's like to sweep one, get it in the right spot. We hear Stewart calling for the sweepers to sweep for curl.
Okay, it's just
We see this one hanging out here too. It's taken a really similar
Yeah.
path to Ryan's rock. They're trying to finish it a bit here, but it's going to be mostly open.
Just too much ice.
Looks to be just about edge on edge. Probably enough curl to get underneath, but it's behind the tee line, so Matt doesn't really want to go under the guard either.
He is lowering the weight a bit from what they were throwing last end, so he's willing to let the curl work a little bit and have the sweepers help out. Really want to stick around, I think, is the reason why they're throwing a little bit less weight.
Yep. Real hard. Real hard.
Trying to get a bit of a roll away
Just need
here.
to be on that smart.
Just an inch.
Just.
So here we see the call to roll under.
Have a chance to look at the scoreboard on sheet 2, the game between Grattan and Murphy. It was Grattan with the Red Rocks that scored a single point in the first end, so Murphy has hammer in the second, down 1-0.
It's so different there from everywhere else on that we played so far. That curled like 4 inches.
10.5.
So we overheard Stuart
The draw
talking
as
there
well, like
with Kendall about
edge 8,
it
is
maybe not
too much.
curling as much as they're expecting it to.
Yeah, it seems to be that lack of curl is resulting in the rock going a little further, the draws. I
Yeah,
think we've seen a
and
couple
those come arounds just not quite getting behind the guard. It'll also change these hit and rolls.
10.
So we see Team Manuel with the yellow rocks there just roll a little bit to the outside, trying to make this hit and roll behind the center harder.
Harder to make, and also, if it's made, it'll be a little further behind the tee. Of course, the further you roll, you've got that forward momentum of the rock.
Solid too.
Just keep going behind the tee line. It gives room for the team with hammer to score.
Yep.
You just got to be real pure down there.
You hear Matt making the same comment down that path. You can't really mess around with it.
Okay.
This one looks like it'll get the nose.
So as they're hitting the nose here, the rocks are obviously moving up just a little bit in the house, which makes the roll become closer to the right call so that you're not behind the tee line.
Yeah.
Matt has called the nose again.
Just clean. Yep. Easy, clean. Yep. Hard. Hard, Jeff. Hard, Jeff.
See the sweepers on it pretty hard here to keep it right on the nose, and that's exactly what happens.
Same way.
In a tricky spot, sometimes it's not so bad to just stick around too, because you try to roll and you can almost try to over-roll or try to roll so hard you miss it.
Yeah, and then you might get a roll out, and then you either give the end away or you kind of lose all the progress you've made on a force.
Okay, and you don't want to give the other team a free draw in that instance.
Yeah.
So waiting for the curl here, but this one doesn't look like it's even getting to the nose. Maybe a little extra weight there from Kendall. Watch the roll here.
So I'm going to be very interested to see. Oh, there's a big spin back there. I don't know whether it's just caught the rings. Matt's indicated that it's out, so that's good. I was going to say that I'm very interested to see what Matt was going to call here. Obviously, it's the second end. And whether or not he chooses to come around the center, maybe draws to the wing to keep this hit on the nose on the wing going. But he's elected to throw the peel, so he's not quite ready to really go for the more challenging shots that might give him a better chance at more points.
Hard, Jeff. Hard, Jeff. Hard, Jeff. Hard, Ryan. All the way. All the way. Hard. Right out. Right out. Right out. Right out. Right out. Right out.
Throwing the peel there, trying to keep the blank as a possible option.
I would try the,
Two options.
I would just hate
For
to come
Stuart?
up short.
I actually messed up when I was sweeping that one.
I guess I'll give it enough speed that I'm never short of the rings.
You don't. So there's one lonely rock sticking around the edge, and Stuart's thinking, okay, I can freeze to it, but if you ever come up late, it's a guard for Matt. So
A guard with backing, possibly.
yeah, Stuart doesn't want to leave it short. So through is the way to miss it.
I would like to think so, yeah.
Can't really move that red stone. It's pretty close to the sideline.
A little lucky that straight spot that no one really figured it out.
Curls pretty hard to the wings. This is 6 feet ice.
Let's go, Brian. Bring in
We
the
saw that last night,
big force.
but this will be, I think, the first inside out of the game here.
Felt pretty good.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is another one of those tests early on in the game where you get a chance to throw a free one out to the wings and really get to judge how much it's going to curl. So that
Sweepers are
Line's
paying
perfect.
attention.
Might be making
if you've got to go to the
Line's
wing for an
perfect.
important shot later on, you've at least tried it out once.
Close line. Sit down, baby.
Oh, if they give it a bump, it's going to end up. Oh, it just kissed it.
That's pretty good, huh?
Team Thompson's
Wow.
all smiles and giggles about that one.
I almost bumped in on the play with T-line late, yeah.
I think we'll see Matt throw this one with a little bit of weight just to make sure that both of them go away when you hit it on the nose. Keep the shooter in the ring.
Really good, yeah, really good, yeah.
So it did what they
Yeah.
expected, and Matt threw
Should run pretty good.
this exact out turn going the other direction on the other side of the sheet for his blank.
It would have
So
been
he'll
the
be
first
looking
time
for
I've
the
ever removed
same
a rock from
shot.
play with T-line weight.
Here's Stuart there. Would have been the first time he removed a rock from play with T-line weight. Normally you got to throw hit weight for that. No problem for Matt there.
Yeah, he just did exactly what he wanted to, and he's just biting the rings now, which makes it even trickier for Stuart.
Out-turn peel.
So you can't hit the boards, hit the wings first. So this is the out turn, which is probably
Jeff would do
not what
this.
it looks like it
all
is.
the balls
Out-turn peel.
around, leaves a glass, just chilling.
Pretty straight there on the edges, though.
Like someone's gonna
Saw
kick
Matt's carry down the side. And we might see another blank if this is made. Matt will have one more.
And it becomes a 6-end game, tied 0-0. Good shot by Stuart to roll into the rings and make sure that Matt has to throw a shot.
Try and get some rocks in play. Thanks.
As you mentioned, Selena, this is the same turn that Matt was throwing for his PL in the last end. The rock's in pretty much the same spot. It's just on the opposite side of the sheet, obviously. Should feel pretty comfortable throwing this one.
Yeah, it's pretty nice to get to throw two in a row, same spot.
Freak.
Trying to look around at sheet 1 and sheet 4 to see their posted scores, but neither sheet have put a number on the board yet, so I don't have any updates for anyone. Matt easily makes the peel there and blanks the end. So we'll see now if Team Thompson's willing to put the guard back up again and what Team Manuel will do with that.
On the blanks, it's so easy. You just be like, with the broom count wherever you want, just be real positive and hard with it, and it just,
Getting a curling lesson from Matt Manuel. Throw it straight on the wings and put the broom where you want it.
do
I
four
think
the
we
same
said
game.
last night, I think we were joking
We can get
about
another blank here and then try to
hitting the
score
broom
two.
and throwing the right weight, and you'll make every shot, which is
Go figure.
kind of what Matt just said. As long as you throw it hard and hit the rock with a little bit of a strong rotation, you'll make the peel every time.
Line, if you can. If you can.
I was
Looks like
teaching
it's Max
Learn to
Riggs.
Curl this afternoon, and it's their fourth week,
It's
so
actually
halfway
running
through
really,
the
really nice.
program, and it's so funny because we always,
Unfortunately, it's
my
running really
first
nice.
reminder, of course, was they did their practice slides and threw a couple of
Really didn't
practice
want
just
another
throws for fun, and I said, okay, guys, where's your rotation? Because they are just letting go of the rock, and it's so funny because it is something that it's easy to take for granted, but that's what Matt was saying. It's just make sure. But they were learning, and when it's spinning a lot, it's not curling. It doesn't move across the
Right.
sheet. And it's really interesting, people that aren't familiar with curling, to get to learn that. The more spin, the more positive, the less curl.
And certainly the more the throwing rock will take off when it makes contact.
Good.
Yes, action.
So we saw Team Thompson's first rock. It was a planned guard, but it slid into the ring. So Team Manuel very quickly jumped right on top of that with a nose hit to stick around in the house. Team Manuel, of course, having the hammer to start the game, now blanked 2 ends in a row. Totally okay with continuing to blank and holding onto the hammer for longer into the game.
Yep.
Usually makes me nervous because as you have fewer ends and the game stays closer, if you make just one mistake or give up one big end, you don't really have any time left to try and score a whole bunch back.
No time, and you've really been playing the hit games, so you haven't been playing those draws that you need to generate points. I guess it's probably a good time to talk about the Halifax Curling Club Fall fundraiser. Well, we have an open
That was a
house.
smooth transition.
Every year during the Stu Cells event, the club hosts a fantastic silent auction. We are a little bit limited with what we can bring into the club and who we can bring into the club this year. So it's been moved online It is open for bidding right now. It runs until December the 4th. There's a huge selection of prizes to be won. You do have to pay for them, but that's the idea behind the fundraiser. You can go to halifaxcurl.com and find the link to the auction site, create an account, and start bidding. There's all kinds of great prizes. I know you had your eye on a few things.
Yeah, I was on there last night. There's a couple good brooms on there, and at the time that I was looking, they would be a steal if you got them for that price. I think it was $20, so I'm sure more people have been on there and started bidding things up. But there were some pretty cool prizes. A couple nights stay at a Airbnb, I think, or a cottage.
Yeah, and some local service providers have donated some prizes. All kinds of options there.
Lots of restaurant gift cards and stuff, too. Good for takeout, too, I'm sure, or
Good
delivery.
for gifts, for that wonderful season coming up next month.
Oh, too soon. So we see we had a nose hit here, and it looks like the Team Thompson Red Rock is out in front of the house, and Team Manuel is ready to start going around guard. So here we see them trying to throw that draw behind the guard and generate some points here in the third end.
So now we see what they were doing. They were just waiting for the guard. They didn't want to put it there, though.
Line's real good. Still
So a pretty open house, low risk for the team with Hammer to do this.
Line's getting real good. Hard line, Ryan. Well, don't bury it. Don't bury it. Don't bury it. Just half buried. That's good.
So I think the Team Manuel would have been looking for that yellow rock to be just a little bit deeper in the house to make this run back a little bit more challenging for Team Thompson.
Inch high.
And you heard Matt just at the end there talking to his sweepers, asking them not to fully bury it. And I can only imagine that that's to leave these rocks a little bit offset so it's not a straight run back, which means that if Colton makes it here, it might leave the back rock a little bit more out in the open than it would have been if it was just a straight run.
Hard.
Makes contact, but the raised rock is spinning, and
Oh, that was a huge spin back into the
big.
house. We've seen that a couple of times. We saw that last end, and we saw it last night too on this sheet,
yeah.
where the rocks were doing a big spin back towards the house, which is always fun to watch and maybe just a little frustrating if you're not the team whose rock just spun back into the house.
Yeah, that rock for Colton might have felt like a little bit disappointing as your raised rock spins out, and then, oh, no, it's back in. I'm watching this one from Jeff Marr. They want to get the roll in.
Nice.
Just sits there, right on the nose.
So I feel like we're watching a mirror image of the end we just had again, except there's a guard in play right now, but we're way out on the edge.
They like that out turn. They're not
Nope.
playing on the in turn side,
No
just the out
kidding.
turn side.
Way out on the edge, just a piece of the rock biting the rings.
You don't often practice these hits, but when you need to make them, you need to make them.
They can be really tricky on your eye, too, as you're preparing in the hack and getting ready to slide out, that you've got to go way out there.
Whoa, whoa! Rig.
So Team Thompson is hoping that their rock is going to stick around in the house. And it
Just
will
rolls
not.
out.
It rolls out of play. So now Team Manuel's got a decision to make.
Well, they did try coming around the Thompson red guard before.
It's pretty low risk right now.
We're later in the end, though. Matt still likes to come around. I like it.
Yeah,
there's any
yeah,
point
they've got a
drawing
chance
open.
here. They already threw almost this exact same shot. Obviously, this is Luke's first, so it's not the same person throwing it. They should have a pretty good understanding of what the ice is going to be, a pretty good understanding of what the time's going to be, so the speed in this path. So I do think that it's a good opportunity to go for it, even though there is a bit of risk, because if you don't make it 100%, you might give the opportunity to the other team. So Luke just has a little bit extra weight there. He slides into the back eight, and we see Team Thompson quickly calling the freeze to change this end around.
14-5. Line's tight. Whoa. Kill. Clean. Michael. Still through. Michael.
A little heavy on the weight,
All
so
the way
they
to it,
want to curl it. They want to make contact. Try and sit on the face of that yellow stone. Would love that yellow since it was heavy to pop out, because now here's the deuce in play for Team Manuel.
I would hate to say, well. Okay.
So they're looking to roll away here so they don't group their yellow rocks together and give Team Thompson an opportunity to throw a double or a high weight hit and roll.
Nose isn't bad either. Okay, roll away.
No matter where they go here, once they
10.
make contact with this rock, both of their rocks are going to be behind the tee line.
Trying to get a little bit of separation and not allow a double or freeze opportunity, but like you said, behind the tee, usually you see a freeze.
Yep.
I don't think we'll see Team Thompson try the freeze unless Luke somehow rolls him behind the guard here. Be taking a lot of risk.
Hard, Ryan. Hard, Ryan. Hard to not roll. Hard. It's pretty good.
Pretty close to right on the nose there. They were sweeping there at the end to make sure that they didn't roll in behind the guard. They came pretty close.
that's not bad.
Control maybe, just so it doesn't go buck.
So I think Stewart can see all the rock and a little bit of air, so there is room to roll behind the guard.
Control.
Low risk chance for 2. I think we would have been kind of silly to pass it up. Realistically, Stewart's going to make some good ones here, and I got to miss.
Huh?
It's not to score 2 still.
Let's make an abysmal one.
To make sit and roll and make a good draw of 2s.
Yeah,
Almost
like
a lock.
controlled, a good board kind of weight. I personally prefer control here.
There's
Make
no,
a
I'm always going to have this
1.5
draw
foot
before.
roll.
This is easy to
A rock and a bit of a roll.
It's interesting. We can hear Matt Manuel talking to his third while Stewart's prepping here, and Matt's feeling pretty confident that the odds, the stats of their team scoring 2 in this end are still pretty high, even if Stewart does make 2 good shots here because of where the yellow rock is. He feels like he's always going to have an opportunity to get out Stewart's shooter here, even if it is a good roll by throwing a lightweight tap or a lightweight hit.
And we saw him making a lot of those last night against Greg Smith.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear him talk about the odds and the stats and just expressing his confidence that he'll be in a good place even if Stewart does make a couple good shots.
Threw it great, just not nearly enough ice.
Got the roll out, not enough ice, you hear the team saying.
There, but sorry not to leave a half rock double. Yeah. Right on the IF, just past the IF. That's perfect.
So we see Matt here
like
talking
that,
about drawing behind the guard, which brings him closer to his other rock that's in the house. This would be, I think, the only way that you might generate a third point if you get a miss from Team Thompson.
What's that?
Like, it had no chance.
Toppy.
They did say that if they drew to the open side, which might be your first reaction, your gut reaction to draw to the open side and guarantee that you get 2, we heard Matt say out loud that if they don't put that in the right spot, it makes the double actually easier.
Yeah, exactly. That yellow is so far back in the rings, there's probably going to be a double. You're not going to try and put your shooter behind the tee intentionally, but
Is that one wide open?
might need to.
That's fortunate.
So just while Matt's rock's coming down here, I am actually able to see the scoreboard on sheet 1. And as I mentioned, there were 100 rocks in play in the first end, and Team Gushu scored 1. And then Team McDougall scored 1 in the second end, so it's tied 1-1. They're playing the third, and Gushu has the hammer.
And we finally got a score on sheet 4. There was a blank in the first end. Team Dexter blanked the first and then scored the deuce in the second. So they lead Team Skanes 2-0. And there we see Matt's draw coming a little heavy. 6 to, well, probably 8 feet actually. He wanted to be in the 8 foot. And
Freeze
so
left
Stewart
off.
doesn't have to make the hit. He can freeze and take away
Yeah, wasn't
both
it-
those
what?
yellows as counters.
Yeah.
So that obviously was
Is
the
that
the
15?
the worst case scenario
Yeah.
with a rock still in the house
Like,
for
that's
Matt's
nothing
last
to
shot.
me.
Yeah.
good
We were
weather
talking
roll.
about whether to draw to the open side or whether to try and come behind the guard. If that rock with that weight, that back 12, was on the open side, there wouldn't be a double.
Yeah, perfect weight for that.
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
see it. We saw him
Control,
go for
good-
the draw behind the guard to try and put his
control
rocks in the
and
best spot he could for there to be no double
Still
and
just
I
increase
prefer
the
this
difficulty of
wasn't
Stewart
trying that
following
much
up
air.
behind, but
right off.
we just didn't see that happen.
They
Yeah,
switched
it's
up the
just
call
kinda
here, though.
steady, nothing
They can
crazy.
play the freeze, but he can see the whole yellow on the side. I think it's a little higher, so it's just playing the hit and roll. A little lower risk.
Yeah, you get rid of one here, and there's no 3 in play anymore. You try for that freeze, and you bump off the guard, or you come heavy and you bump and roll off. This would be a really bad spot to give up a 3. So I see their thought process there, and he makes a great shot. He might have just taken away the 2 as well.
Good call. Yeah.
And it looks like Matt's not even going to try for it. He's just going to play his draw for 1.
Okay.
No, they're pretty
Same speed
snug
out here.
together, so
Well, I didn't
maybe
really-
a chance
I
for a
guess it's that
3
last rock,
taken
but it
away
relies on him having a disaster.
and having to settle for the single. Needs full 8 here, Matt Manuel with hammer. No score yet.
15 out here.
It looked, that
keep
looked
your
pretty
heads up,
easy
eh?
from Hack, whereas
Yeah, when he got down there, I figured he was probably.
if you leave room to rip mine, it's just like such an easy 2.
Yeah, a little off on the.
Yeah.
A little off on the outside.
It's a lot less. It's a lot less. It's a lot less.
It's the same degree of difficulty.
Heads up.
So we hear Matt,
Feeling
as
pretty
soon as he
good.
lets it go, letting
Yeah,
the
it'll be
sweepers
fine.
know that he felt like he threw that a lot less, so he didn't want them to
They have so much
just
rotation,
watch
they're
it and
getting
walk
six
away.
innings there.
He wanted them to be close to sweep it, and it looks like he's got exactly the weight he needs. Right
Just
to the
nibbles
T-line
the
there.
button.
Yeah.
Good shot from Matt. So they will take the lead. Single point,
that
the only
sucks.
point on the
What
board.
was that?
So 1-0 after 3 ends for Team Manuel over Team Thompson.
And as we look across the sheets, I do see an update on sheet 2 in the Murphy-Grattan game. Grattan had the single in the first, and Murphy responded with a deuce in the second. They'll lead 2-1. We are the only sheet playing the 4th end right now.
We are speeding right along, but I guess 2 blank ends really helps out with that.
Yeah. A few shots ahead of the other sheets.
That second
Top
end
4.
from Murphy and Grattan, there were a million rocks in play again.
Okay, Luke in. Luke
Grattan
in.
was sitting 3,
Luke in.
and Murphy just
Look
drew
shot.
in to the middle of the mall and generated a miss from Grattan, so that's how he got his 2 points there. It
Luke
was
at the end if
skips,
you can.
skips
yes,
2.
Luke, you can. Yes, Luke, you can.
I guess that's why they hire
Yeah,
him.
couple licks, couple licks, couple licks.
Got to make those shots sometime.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
So we see Manuel here with the first rock
is
drawing into
straight.
the 4-foot, not really willing to take on a lot of risk here in this end, hoping to force Stewart to take the risk first, and then they can play more defensive.
Whoa.
But Stewart also not willing to play along, goes right for the hit. With the 5-rock rule, we are seeing a lot more teams, especially if that
I
first
think
rock
it's
is in a
perfect.
really good spot,
It's got roll, Rick. Roll,
trying to
roll,
hit and roll away from the center,
shot.
maybe getting a hit and roll out or a hit on the nose out on the wings,
Such good passion.
and then throwing their corner after that. So it'll be interesting to see if that works out this end.
The other thing, too,
Oh,
we
you
talk
take
about the
an eye with
5-rock
that
rule,
map.
which, of course, we're playing with. If you put up the corner guard first, the other team gets a chance to put 2 in the
And it's
center,
not even in
and
commission.
Whoa!
might be hard to score. But if you wait and play the corner on the second lead stone, you can usually get the other team with a rock not in a great spot, as we see this one coming in
He
little
really,
wide
he really
side.
wanted to try to redeem that.
So here you see the guard call. Now that that yellow stone is not on the center line and in likely scoring position.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's fun to see Obviously, there were teams that were doing this even with the 4-rock rule, but it's fun to see new strategies develop when the rules change.
Yeah, no one was doing this at the start of the 5-rock rule. You would see 4 foot, 8 foot in center guard and a corner guard and a side rock, and that would kind of be the start, and it got really messy, but teams are figuring out a way to keep it clean but strategic.
Yeah, that allowing the other team to go 4 foot, 8 foot center line
Oh,
guard can really get you in a lot of trouble when you have the hammer.
Right on the face of the toller.
We see Matt here following up that corner guard with his own center guard, so they're going to try and counteract this with their own aggressive play.
Okay, Ryan in.
These ones are tricky. You don't want them so tight that the hit and roll in is there, but you don't want them halfway
Hard,
either.
guys.
Pretty close to the rings.
I'd be really interested to ask Matt where this call comes from and what the factors are. So if Stewart's corner guard, the red guard, was closer to the center, would he have still called this? If it was further up, or would he have still called this? Or is he calling this because the corner guard's out a little ways and it's closer to the house?
Distraction, yeah.
I'd be really interested to know what factors he was considering when he decided to play that center line guard. And what he expected Stewart to do about it. I don't know if Matt would have expected him to hit this open rock or not.
Clean's fine. Curl a bit.
Important
Get
to
the
stick
rings.
the shooter. They'd like to roll a little bit toward the center line, but just sticking around in the rings is good here. I'll give credit. We've got nice speed out on the ice, and the players are saying how nice and consistent it is. So kudos to lead ice maker Adam McKieran and his crew. They're busy between draws, shaving and prepping the ice. Club manager Mandy O'Connor, always available to help, and the spiel organizers Stephen Thompson, Craig Corpet, Ernie Chan, and all of the volunteers. It takes a large crew to have a spiel like this run, and it's running smooth even in the year of COVID.
So Matt was really hoping for a hit and roll in there and got another hit on the nose. So this rock is moving further up the house. It makes the hit and roll into a much better position than it was a couple shots ago.
Yeah.
So we've seen a couple ends here
It's a
where
9 as well.
they're throwing hit and rolls back to back, and we're not seeing a whole lot of the rolls.
Yep.
Trying to hold this one. Might get a little spin here on this, not one just
Yeah, we mixed it up a bit.
wobbles in.
Just a little bit. It snuck out just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's successful. We're switching to the
Nice tosses.
intern though.
Not really sure how much
And
it's
for
going to go.
Team Thompson, the
come
Red
more than the
Rocks,
first, that's for sure.
I think it's a benefit to them that it
But I
is
moved the
poking
broom
out
like
on
2 inches probably.
what, from our view, is the right-hand side, so in between the center and the corner, so that if they start playing around on that side of the house, that they might have the ability to roll behind the corner instead of just trying to roll behind the center.
For sure. I mean, we're just excited to see a couple of guards, so I think the teams might be too. Makes everything a little more exciting.
Right to it, right to it.
So that's a pretty great shot there from Luke Saunders, Team Manuel. Everyone was involved there. The thrower, the sweepers.
Oh,
They got a
yes.
little bit of a sneaky roll behind that guard, and now it
Giant nose
really
with back
increases
line.
the difficulty
I like
for
that.
Kendall Thompson, Team Thompson.
You don't want to miss this one wide. If anything, you miss it tight. Bring in your sweeper, maybe tick the guard and stick your shooter. That's the reason for the backline call. We want the shooter to stick around on this. We're on a third rocks here.
Yep.
So they're really having to work on this one, and we see Matt already going up to his guard,
Gotta go.
preparing for it to wick off.
Gotta go, shooter.
Not the result that Team Thompson
Yeah.
was looking for there.
I
And
think a
it,
hair light and a hair tight. Well, maybe not
It's
too
thin,
light, but
yeah, I was thinking the same thing. That tap just to the, it would have been in the top 8 if it tapped it straight, but obviously it tapped it on an angle to the top 12.
Yeah, it's
And
just,
I don't think
plants
that's
the double and then you
enough
guard it.
for
Okay,
what Stewart was
play it
looking
tight.
for, but I also don't think that that's the reason why it overcurled and hit the guard. I think Kendall was just a bit tight on that one.
yeah, I had the sweep called out of his hand. There's a double on the yellows, but you don't really want to be having to play that to generate your points. As we see the guard coming up here from Luke. You see a big difference on the two sides with the ice to be called as well. This
Line's
one's
pretty good,
inside
Jeff,
the edge of
though.
the 8 foot for draw, or sorry, for a guard to the center
Okay,
line.
line's good. Jeff, clean.
So Luke Saunders here with
As
his
long as you're
second
not
stone
in.
is
Whoa,
trying to
can't
guard
be
their
in.
rock that's in the top 4.
For sure.
Needs to just
Okay,
bite
Ryan
the
at
center
end.
line,
Ryan,
I
yeah,
think, to
push
be
it
right
over,
out in
push it
front.
over. Yeah, a little more.
I knew this one was in. Sweepers called that.
And
Very deep.
Yeah, and it curls way across the center and is mostly behind the red guard now.
Pretty good.
Even this, if you, I don't know if you can,
good.
but if you can roll to
Either
there
if
too.
he
Well,
rolls, we should have the short run on the yellow.
yeah, that's the only shot.
Yeah, hair of a roll here, and there won't be
I
a
think
play
that's
on the
good.
yellow, which is partly buried. This has been the side that we've seen the Rocks carry a bit more straight.
So straight.
Whoa, whoa,
Like this one.
whoa, curl.
Waiting for this one to curl, trying to make it curl now with sweeping.
Okay, it's not horrible.
Just get it on the
I think I can
nose.
get under that yellow.
Matt,
This is
probably
pretty
big
good
side
though, isn't
board
it?
too.
So I think that's the shot, eh?
Matt doesn't have much of an option. He's got to hit the
Yeah.
shot
That
stone.
one was really good.
Yeah, we don't want to move it though, right? And then he's probably going to play something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm good with board. It's a pretty nice spot.
Having 3 stones
with
in the
board.
front of the rings wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, and
Right on the edge of the
Keeping
you
the
hear
play
Matt
away
talking,
from the corner.
and
Yeah, very,
it's a
very
balance
simple.
right now between trying to be aggressive and maybe force a situation where you might steal a point, and not accidentally
across
putting
the
your
face.
rock in
Yeah,
a
Don't wanna
spot
move
where
that yellow, but just wanna
Stewart
kinda
can make a
nestle
good
into
one
the
and,
side of
and
it.
get right back in this end to try and score his 2.
Yeah, exactly. Probably not great stealing
I know,
opportunity with
but
8 foot
I might even
rocks,
touch
but
the
if you
center
block
line
the
this
path to
close.
the button,
I think it'll be okay.
you never know.
It might line both yellows up behind the guard. Yeah. Wide.
Whoa.
No, yeah.
Luke.
So they've got the outside sweeper on to try and get it to curl a little bit. They hit it right on the nose.
You might be able to do this. Yeah. Just make sure the double with peel.
Yeah,
I
it's
think the
not my
harder
greatest
throw, the
Yeah, I
better.
like this call.
I
Just
don't
try
think you
and
ever spin out
give
of the
yourself a
ring.
chance here and open up the
Yeah,
button.
'cause this is higher.
Yeah.
So I think you'll stay.
Just regular peel's good.
Yeah, just.
Just not really a pure
Yeah, so we're
throw.
trying to hit a half rock
Yeah,
on this.
yeah. We'll just make sure
Little
we're.
solid
Make sure we get the double.
One benefit of
The
those
cap
yellow
rod-
rocks for Team Manuel is you're not able to hit one of them on the nose and sit shot rock, so you do have to
I
move
don't know
both
if
of
we'll
them to
able
be
spin
shot
up, but we'll
rock.
try and spin up behind
So
the
this
corner.
Yeah, I
will
was trying to curve
Because the
it.
one I'm
be
hitting first on the
essentially a
right side is
setup
deeper.
shot for Stewart. He's trying to
By, like,
leave himself in a good enough spot.
Yeah,
I
this
think
is-
he is trying to
this is
throw the double.
Yeah, nose peel,
It will
sorry,
likely
cross peel
spin
is
back
great
up.
too, or shot rock.
He's hoping it
they probably
sticks
just nose
in
and
the
drop.
top 12 after making the double.
It's always interesting to watch these. You're so used to the rocks coming straight forward, but when you ricochet a bit, sometimes you can get the rock to move a little bit upwards.
Yeah,
So
and
I
this is a
think
good
that's
view
what
here
we'll
to
see.
see that guard. So this isn't wide open. He's got to hit it right in the right spot and hope it spins up behind the guard.
Anything?
Watch the spin. Little bit. Had to hit the first one thicker, like you hear Stewart say. Just kind of bounced in the middle and didn't spin much.
It's a good
Going
result,
to the
Stewart, to
8
get
foot,
that
make him hit.
double. And
Good chunk.
as you mentioned, the
Same
4
weight?
foot was
I thought it was
blocked
gonna go
before,
buck,
but
and then it just
now
didn't.
with that double,
If it did go buck, it might
they'll
have.
have more space to draw if Matt follows
It did
this
move
up with
just
another
like
nose.
that, but it needed to-
Matt is trying to roll away to make Stewart think about what he wants to throw on his next one. Does he want to hit to score his one, or hit and roll maybe to score his one, or throw a draw, which he hasn't thrown a lot of?
I think the draw, yeah.
Well, we know what he'll play, I think.
Yeah, I
They've
guess we
already
hear Stewart
decided.
and Kendall talking about it already. Regardless of where this rock ends up, they're talking about throwing the draw.
Easy, easy, easy.
Which, if you're a young curler and you're just learning, having a plan like that is a really good opportunity to talk with your third about where you want to put the broom, how hard you're going to have to throw it, what the time might be. So it's a really good opportunity to hear a high-performing team doing the same thing.
They're just having a look to see if they hit the yellow on the nose, if they will be shot.
I think they might actually be talking about whether or not they can blank it
Can I ever, if I throw peel,
to
can
get
I
rid
ever
of both the yellows and roll out the back,
Yeah, like,
which
no,
would
I'm
be
just saying, if I
a
had
very
7
highly
eighths, can I ever
skilled
roll over
shot
here?
and takes
Yeah.
a lot of risk
I think
into
I like
play.
that, the same turn. They're-
I think they're going
It's a
for it.
really tough blank. It's a really tough blank. If we know for shot. Yeah, I think.
So talking about throwing a lot of weight, maybe doing that blank, but
Yeah, and Stewart just said to Colton that he thinks that
Yeah,
if
I
they
think,
get
yeah,
the
let's just
nose, that
go,
they'll be shot. So that lowers
Yeah.
the risk quite substantially from
good
what I
control to
initially
red,
thought,
kinda
which
thing.
was if you did hit the nose, that you wouldn't be
Just
shot. So you'd
double
have to
check
roll
that nose is
somewhere.
good.
And if you're throwing a missile, it's hard to just roll a couple inches and stick around.
yeah, exactly.
And I imagine if they're going for the
Okay, I
blank
thought-
to
I thought
try and
we-
get rid
it
of
was for
both
sure.
yellow rocks, you're going to have to throw a missile.
Yeah, no,
Then
they've
let's just take a little
switched.
less
They're
ice and just
thinking
play a
nose,
softy roll.
nose or a little
Same
roll.
weight, just a little less ice.
I think the risk is too high to
Yeah.
give up a point to play that
Yeah.
blank. It would be beautiful if you really wanted to, but
Could just draw as well, but
I don't think
Not
you'd see many
necessary.
teams try the high weight double for the peel. I know Stewart and his team.
practice. It's a practice shot.
They really do spend a lot of time throwing the high weight because they know it's such a weapon in close games to be able to make those run backs and those high weight hits. So of all the teams that I would see play that shot, I think Stewart might be one of them.
Going hard for line on this one. They don't want to roll too far, but they got the catcher good enough for one. And we are tied 1 apiece here in the quarterfinals. 2 draws left after this tomorrow at the 1824, the Stu Sells Halifax Classic, presented by Steel
those
Subaru
are already 4 ends.
and
it
brought
feels
by
like
our
2.
partner sponsors Superline Fuels, Stu Sales Realty, and Clark Painter with Manulife Securities. We're glad you're watching halfway through this draw. We've got some other games out on the ice and not too many updates. Oh, I got a couple updates in the Grattan-Murphy game. Grattan back with a 2, so they have now a 3-2 lead over Jamie Murphy. And another blank in the Skeins-Dexter game. Dexter continues to lead. The only point on the board, 2-0. And I can't see the McDougall-Gushu score.
I
Can you help
can.
me out, Jeff?
Team Gushu with the Yellow Rocks scored 2 in the third end, so they are up 3-1. Team McDougall has the hammer in the fourth end. And again, there are a million rocks in play. So sheet 1 has got a lot going on every time I look over.
A lot of corner guards there from McDougall.
Yeah, there's 4 corners on one side. So we see Team Thompson here starting the fifth end off with a high center guard. And Manuel is quick to call the top 8 right around there, get this end going.
Hard early if you can.
We've waited a while for these shots, so hope to see them made
Hard
here.
line.
now that we have that center guard and the come around call.
We hear Matt yelling hard early, and that usually indicates that the
bounce it
rock
off?
is a little bit tight from the
real nice to
release
bounce
from
it
the
off,
thrower.
Real nice to bounce it off.
The weight looks like it was a little quiet
Good sweep,
too.
guys.
You hear Matt calling for them to bounce it off, which means that they're trying to separate those guards a little bit so that they might be able to possibly use their yellow, or if they need to bail later, it's easier to get the peel and roll out.
Yeah, the team with hammer normally won't want those center guards overlapped. You want to be able to use them or double peel.
Okay, you're really wide. It's got to curl a mile.
We see Team Thompson really working on that one with the outside sweeper, trying to get it to curl in behind the guard
Fired
there.
it out there. Yeah.
Stewart isn't one to mix his words usually when he's giving feedback to his team, so he's letting Colton know that Michael maybe got that one a bit outside. So
If they flop in, we can just make a flop and freeze
Matt's
on it.
got a
Good.
chance here to hit and roll in behind with a light weight. That red rock is behind the
Guessing
tee
they're
line,
rolling
so if they roll too far, they're going to be behind the tee line as well, and Team Thompson might have a chance to make a good freeze.
I always like having the skips mic'd and hearing the comments. It's so good because you know what they're thinking and what their strategy is on these calls.
Yeah, and sometimes when you put a microphone on a skip, if they're not a very outgoing person, it will totally shut them up. You won't hear them say a word. Matt and Stewart are certainly not those people. They will tell you exactly how they're feeling and what they think should be happening, which makes it more fun. We see Ryan's lightweight hit there roll out to the side, so Stewart's going to call a nose hit right back.
Whoa! Whoa! Michael! Hard, Michael! Come on, you can't roll out here.
You want that one to sit, and it just does. You hear that? Can't roll out. It's really important to stick around. Of course,
Really wide.
for Team Manuel, they would have looped one right around those center guards.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
a good draw around those centers would cause a lot of trouble, and I think you see
It's
Matt, Team Manuel here, talking about maybe just throwing the draw anyway.
Yeah.
It
tempting.
doesn't benefit them a whole lot to hit on the nose way out in the 12 foot.
Yep, you don't.
We
you-
roll
we're
out
getting
first, we're
shafted on the
basically
overly aggressive
forced.
ones. You can still add some, but it just can't be like super aggressive. Like
I like the
54.
call. You're halfway through the game. It's a 4-end game now. We're tied. Probably want to score first.
Yeah, and we heard Matt talking about what the risk is here of hitting this one on the outside. He said if they roll in first, which could mean the roll or a good draw behind those center guards, that they're essentially going to be forced to just a single point, and that will be if they can follow a good shot up with a good shot of their own. So they are playing what is likely the easier shot, but it increases their overall risk of getting forced or giving up a steal if Team Thompson makes a good shot first.
I know, but at the same time, though, like
You
we
think
gotta-
you
we gotta
know
take our
what the
chances
other
and
team
get
is
the
thinking, but you're never quite sure what they're going to do. And you don't want to get forced, but
I know, but
like you said, a little bit easier shot.
Gotta go, Michael.
And even
Really gotta go, Michael.
Well, they like no, you're right.
Well, we're
Wow.
really good at those.
They're just coming up. That looked like it was only on half a rock most of the way down.
What?
I think
Just
this is
coming
the
up at the
third
end.
or the fourth end out of 5 where we have been hitting rocks that are just barely biting the outside 12 way out on the wing.
You got it.
And it was really interesting, Selena. I don't know if you could hear Matt and Luke talking while Team Thompson was throwing there. I overheard Matt make the comment that we're going to have to take our chances when we get one. And I think he was referring to possibly throwing the draw on that last one. He talked about if we had thrown that hit, which again is perceived to be the easier shot, if we had rolled out, it gives the opposite team, it gives Team Thompson a really good chance to make a draw, and then they might be forced. So he was talking about potentially making a chance out of an opportunity.
What? I don't love this either. No, like, eventually they're just going to ignore it, right? The only thing is if they miss and they ignore it, they could give up too.
Yeah, it's nice hearing that conversation. And he's not wrong. The thought process is right.
So
We're
here we
getting that
see
motion.
a roll, and it's towards the guards. It's not, I think it's probably just a piece buried, but it's not all the way behind. And we see Team Manuel here with their first rock.
Same as Ryan.
Looking to hit and roll away from those guards to the back of the house.
Yeah, of course, if you roll under, Team Thompson doesn't have a choice but to freeze, and that really cuts the end down. So the roll away is the call.
Yep.
It's Luke Saunders.
Easy, clean. Yep. Whoa. Close. Yep. Hard.
So they're really trying to make sure they keep that rock on the outside so they get the roll. Maybe just got caught a little bit there with the break point. They certainly had an opportunity to work on that a little bit harder with the sweepers to get the roll that they were looking for. Now they leave it pretty close to the center guards, but open. And a good chance here for Thompson to make the hit and roll, and that's what they're calling.
Clean.
You make a good roll here, and Team Manuel would be forced to throw a freeze.
This one really has to curl. They might make the roll away. No, just on the nose. So nose puts this right on the center line, but a roll will, or sorry, the T line, but a roll will roll behind the T line.
No, it's different. It's just a little bit straighter, a little bit thicker.
So Matt's still liking the roll away.
And I think that's really trying to limit his risk and also give him a chance if there is a miss that they might score a couple. But this
keep the blank alive and the two alive.
Yeah, I think this really is an attempt to keep the blank alive, but also leave their rocks around in case they get a miss and they might be able to score an extra point.
Hard, Jeff.
You think so?
Hard, Jeff. Shot.
It's just where they needed it there. They did have the outside sweeper on it to try and get it to curl just a little bit. They certainly didn't want to roll all the way out of the house because, again, that gives another chance for that draw behind the center guards.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
You're really staring at me there.
Hit it in the right spot so you can get
Oh,
the
okay.
spin in the rings.
Yeah, we're drawing, yeah. What? We know as they come around.
We could ever get in the
You
rings.
can see the scoreboard over on sheet 4. Team Skane scored a single point in the fourth end, so they are down 2-1 now playing the fifth. Team Dexter has the hammer.
I think the draw's the right call.
Here's the bluff call. See, here's Stuart talking to Michael and Colton. I think Stuart and Kendall agreed now is the time to play this come around. If you hit, I think Matt may play the draw to try and generate the 2 points. We're down to Skip's rocks. He just has to make 2 draws. So Stuart and Kendall said, well, we'll beat him to it. We'll play the come around instead of the hit. Acknowledging that this could be giving up a chance for a couple. But you try and steal or force pretty hard at this point. The front end didn't seem to like it as much.
Yeah,
but,
well, Stuart kind of had to walk them through it a little bit, and just hearing Stuart talk about it, he was talking about it pretty nonchalantly, like there wasn't a whole lot of risk involved, and said if this is the right shot, it's the right shot, we should just play it. Let's figure out what the weight needs to be and what the path is, and we'll make a good shot and
The more curl, the merrier.
put the
Looks like a
opponent
good one.
team in
That was
a
just
pretty
going
good spot,
sideways
and
at
that's
the end.
exactly
Great
where
swing, guys.
he needed to be.
Yeah, it probably grabbed.
Good sink one.
So now
I
you
throw
see,
peel, I might hit them all. I hit
The
it
decision has to be made there for Matt. He could play around. This one's just top 8 foot. He can go into the 4 foot.
I was like on the draw. I'm like, no, it's the right call.
And we saw Team Manuel this whole end talking about if we keep hitting on the outside,
you could hit it perfect.
Team Thompson might just throw a draw around the center, which puts them in a lot of trouble, and that's exactly what happened now. And they're so late in the end. This is Skip's first rock. They don't have a whole lot of chances to pull themselves out of this.
If I miss it, at least it
And
should
now,
be
not
open.
only are we not
I
we're
have to
talking
miss
about
it
the
like
force,
this.
but we also might be talking about a potential steal if they don't bail themselves out.
He probably tries
Yeah,
to
and
sink
it looks risky, but at the same time,
It is
it's
scary.
I know.
it's working to make the other team worried and make them
What do you
think about it.
double peel or the run?
He's not changing his mind on it.
Okay.
So Team Manuel isn't even considering throwing a better draw around there into the 4 foot. They're talking about the double peel that they're hoping might get lucky and send the yellow rock back into the house and maybe make contact with the red rock, or the straight run on the yellow. And it looks like Matt's going to play the run.
2 or 3. If I miss it, we still only have to hit the 4 foot at worst to give up
We do
one.
look really.
Assuming he sinks a perfect
Sweep
draw.
that red.
You might think that this was
I
an
like this.
either-or shot, like throw it down there and maybe you'll get the double peel or maybe you'll get the run back, but those two shots right now aren't really that close to each other. You'd have to really miss the run back to make the double peel, and that doesn't mean it won't happen, but this isn't an either-or shot. You really
Yeah,
have
they're
to commit
calling
to
the
one
run.
and throw it well.
A little wide on this one. They're waiting for the line. It's close. Touches it.
Yeah, so that's a good shot from Matt. He didn't overthrow it. He threw pretty good weight there. He gave it a chance to curl back into it. It's a really good result. Obviously, he was
Excellent.
hoping to stick it behind the guard and make Stewart make a decision about maybe hitting the open one or making a really tough shot to go after the
very
one
similar
in the
to-
back 8.
Wait, was pretty nice. Maybe even a touchdown. It didn't look
Yeah,
good,
it's
but
pretty
nice.
darn good. You can see how the chance
I
for
like a
3 could have been in
smooth
play
board
if that
here.
was stuck, what we say, nutted right on the top of the.
Yeah,
Hit
because
rock.
it never feels good to throw an open hit knowing that you're likely guaranteed to give up 2. So skips are often inclined to throw the more challenging shot to try and get themselves out of it. So it would have been interesting to see what Stewart would have chose there if Matt was able to stick that shot behind the guard. He still has a great opportunity here to make a good hit and roll, and the force would still be on.
Playing the hit and roll behind the guards. Needs to be shot. And right in
I
the
think
top
it's worth
8
another
foot.
go.
Nice guys.
Like,
So
Exactly.
Matt's looking at risk reward. Draw for
Yeah,
1
I
or
love the
same
way
shot for 2. Playing the run.
He's going to throw it again. So the last one he needed to be more on the nose, and we saw him hit it just a little bit outside of nose, and that's why
This
it,
would be a really
it
good deuce
hit off the
if he
side of the red and rolled into the center. So he needs to hit this one exactly where he hit the last
be
one.
gentle
Yeah.
with your sweep
The
too
way
at
he
the
played.
start.
I can't think of a harder shot in curling than throw exactly what you just threw.
I know. So
we'll
difficult.
see how Matt does here.
It's easier to adjust by 6 feet somehow.
Yeah.
Just make a little change, but same shot's always tough. Give him good odds, though. So the raised rock would be that second point. Let's see.
Yeah.
Close. Yep.
You see the sweepers working on this one.
Must be close. Oh, that looks real nice.
A great throw by Matt.
2 in a row.
Looked
Great
like
shots.
he threw it a little bit harder, just a hair harder, and had the sweep on early and called them off late.
I guess that's kind of a skipper's deuce.
Yeah,
It's
two
a one-shot
20-foot
deuce.
run backs in a row, yeah.
Yeah, pretty nice. So
Nice pair, Matt.
Nice.
the first 2 we've seen this game comes from Matt Manuel, a skip. And he'll lead 3-1 as Ryan Abraham gets ready to throw. We see Ryan Abraham holds the broom for Matt. Ryan did play 3rd in juniors for Matt Manuel, now throwing lead, but still holding the broom.
Top 4. Top 4. Looks close. Yeah, you're hot. Okay, it's fine.
This one going a little bit deep.
Right on the boys. Right on the boys.
Just realized what right on the boys means.
I did too.
The buoys in the Spindrift Brewing logo.
Boy it up, big boy. Well, Boyd.
Oh, Stuart. Always
so-
a character.
So Stuart's my brother. So is Kendall. They're odd. They're odd.
Yeah.
We're all odd.
Stuart using the designs on the ice to call out where he would like the shots to go.
Did you hear the other one? Well faced on the
Yes,
on the
over
toller.
on the puppy's face on the other
I
side.
think we have to live with that.
Oh my.
So that's a pretty good corner guard.
Yeah.
It's in a little bit further than we've seen some of the corner guards, so it's blocking some of the 8-foot. There's lots of opportunity to get multiple rocks behind there. We see Team Manuel trying to put another rock in the house in front of their rock currently, hoping that it's in the top 4, top 8.
Shot.
And their goal is to force Team Thompson to have to play around those rocks eventually. We see Stuart now is going to throw another corner, hoping to block his current corner so that it takes more than one peel to try and get rid of them.
Same side. So we see this often now. This is another change that we've seen. Jeff, you mentioned earlier some differences in strategy with the 5-rock rule. We are so used to seeing a corner guard on one side and then a corner guard on the other side. But then ultimately that team would often be blocking their path to the center, to the button. And so now we're seeing these double
Is there any way
corner
to not
guards.
make a gimme double? That's still a gimme on the outside.
So they're overlapped, but they're a little tight together.
Tight.
Yeah, and we
Gonna be
hear
some
Stuart
work.
talking to his sweepers as that one was coming to an end, asking if there was any way that they could sweep it or not sweep it to keep those rocks far enough away from each other that there isn't an easy double
Don't
peel
kill it.
later on in the end.
Line's good. Line's good.
Because Stuart's
Yes, Luke, a
long-term game plan is to try and get a rock behind those
Luke.
corners and hope that only a single peel
Can't
is
beat
made.
it.
And
Luke,
that's
stay down.
certainly
Okay, hard
the
dead.
positions of the rocks right now is going to make that double peel easier.
Ryan. Whoa.
Team Manuel seems to have brought their intensity level up for this quarterfinal. We see them a lot more on edge and excited about the shots than I would say we did last night.
Yeah, and that actually is a risk with blanking a whole bunch of ends at the beginning of the game, is you can kind of lull yourself into a daze, and then if the game switches around, you might not have your intensity up. You might be a little bit off on your finesse or a little bit slow on your sweeping calls. So it's good to see that they haven't ended up in that spot in this game. And this is one of those ends that we were talking about where the team without the hammer has the ability to put a whole bunch of rocks in a line, and then the team with the hammer eventually has to start chasing them to get rid of them.
Oh, that's all right. I probably should have.
So Team Manuel could peel, but they're pretty happy to keep guarding here. They got 2 rocks.
And
On the center line.
I think they're making that choice, and they're comfortable with that choice because of how well positioned that yellow rock is in the top 4 foot. It's above the tee line. It's right on the center line. So it's a pretty good rock to guard.
Jams, they still got a piece of the 12 foot.
And they're in a position where they're able to throw the easy shots because they're up and force Stewart's team to throw the hard shots.
As we say that, they're perhaps deciding. Luke's point is just let them blank.
They're in big shape. They're almost getting forced, right? I mean, we got 2 in here, right? Like unless he plants
I
the
like
line
the
and gets all
thinking. When
3
you have
of
2
them.
on the center line in a not ideal guard situation, I like junking up the center. But up to, I don't know, that defensive mindset comes in. think that's why Luke came down.
Exactly. Yeah.
When we
And the
hear
timing's not
hear
bad for the
Matt's
points.
whole
Like,
team
two's big, but
uh,
I'd love to score here. Yeah.
kind of discussing the options here, they have ended up calling the guard. We heard Matt say when he was talking to Luke, if Stewart's team misses one or two more run back or peel attempts, double attempts down the center, they might be in a really good position to force them or get a steal. So that seems to have persuaded the whole team to get on board with the guard, and they're throwing it here. So they're hoping to line everything up so that there isn't easy access to either of the rocks in the house, but also make the straight back double or the straight back triple more challenging.
Yep. Ryan. Whoa.
So they're really trying to sweep here at the end to get the line up.
That one's well placed, not too tight to the rings. Shooter won't roll in.
Peel, yeah.
Now if we're gonna go for it, we go for it.
I know. Well, it's like we can kind of force them right now, right? Like if Colton doesn't make something real good,
Right. Yeah.
if he
And
makes
I
it real
think
good, I don't know.
Team Manuel here is
Probably gonna have to draw around one
in a
of the
good
corners.
position
Can't
to
feel
force
them
at
all.
least. Because even if Colton makes a magnificent shot here and
He's
clears
got
all the
contacts.
yellows out,
Moved a couple.
it would have still been an opportunity
nice.
for Team Manuel to play the double peel on the corner guards and just leave
Pretty good,
everything
though.
wide open.
Yeah.
So we saw
better than it
Colton,
was.
he made contact with everything, leaves his shooter as a guard out front, leaves the yellow rock behind the corners, and another yellow rock in the back four here.
And
So
then your
Team
guard's
Manuel's
not
going to
so
try and put
perfect.
another one
At
around
least
the
it's
guard and try and line things back up again.
Difference being it's a red rock out front this time.
Yeah, of course.
Ryan,
So Stewart is feeling comfortable with that red rock out front on the center line now,
Stay close.
knowing that he may have a pretty good chance to run his own rock back, and then if that one sticks, then it might be shot rock.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to stick in the center. You got the corner guards to go behind. So you can see how the dynamic changes.
Oh,
Just
that
one
one was
shot.
really trying to dive towards the guard, and now we're seeing it over curl the guard.
Squeaker.
The weight was great. They just couldn't hold the line.
It's just a double, basically.
So now we're in an
Yeah.
opportunity where
Whatever way.
access to that rock is in between the center line and the corner, so you've got a great chance for Team Thompson here to make a good shot.
Yeah,
maybe
you can
make
get all three yellows moving on this.
yeah, maybe make a double or a triple and stick behind the corner guards that they haven't really been able to use all end.
Yep. Whoa. Yep. Whoa.
When you hear yep, whoop, you got to think it's close.
You hope.
It's close. Oh.
Oh, just didn't
Good
touch
shot.
the one on the
Sorry.
back four.
Yeah.
A little thicker to make contact with that. I thought that was going
Little
into it
thicker is more
easy,
buried
but
too.
we are not on
You got it?
right in the rings and looking at the angles perfectly.
How much you have?
This is a good shot by Kendall. He makes the double. He sticks most of the way behind the corner.
Hack.
And the only yellow rock is in the back four. So they're in a good spot here. They're forcing Team Manuel to make a tough shot at a partially buried rock behind a corner guard.
Yeah, and you're seeing Team Manuel for the first time not playing around the center. Playing to the wings. They don't have much of a choice. The risk is too great.
Yep.
And we have seen rocks just curling like crazy to the wings. So they've really got to stick close to this one and make sure they give it a chance.
Back and forth with the sweep.
Yes, hard. Roll.
Watch the roll.
Shot.
Right on top. Nice shot.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I
think
saw
we have
Matt
to go for
indicate
it there. If we rip the
that they were
double peel,
hoping
we're
for the
just
roll to
giving
the
up
center line. But he
No,
seemed,
they were just
he seemed
hoping to hit it.
yeah, he seemed pretty confident that that's exactly what he was doing.
So that button's a little crowded, but we are late in the
Line's tight.
end.
That switch though. Calling Jeff halfway down the sheet
Line's
as I'm
really
saying
tight,
hard wall.
Wrigley.
Like what?
Line's tight on this one. We've seen Kendall had one wreck earlier in the game. This one they're going for weight as well.
Good sweep.
And just rubs the front.
I guess
The weight was close. I think it might have
Could
slid
make this.
maybe just top
It
4
is pretty good. As
if
long
it
as I'm
had
not
gotten
too,
by
like,
the
if I ever
guard.
get it right there where it's sticking, it's real tough. He can never get rid of these. He's going to, I guess, he'll plan
So I
to try
think
to
Team
play that
Manuel's
one.
like looking at this
If he
scenario
plants it,
with
it's gonna be
hungry
very much
eyes.
give up too,
It would
but
be a really good
it's
chance
still a very
to
hard shot.
go for a
My problem
steal.
with the hit is I still leave them both.
But
I think-
again,
I think
they're
we have
trying
play
not to
this.
make a shot for the opposing team. So if they try to hit that red rock and they just don't hit it well, they
Yeah,
might
I
run
just-
it
we
back
can't
into
leave
their
it, like,
own
fully open, right,
and
so
make
we
a
get
shot
all-
that may not even have been available
yeah,
for
like-
Stewart.
Where he was making like perfect run backs.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah,
bury.
The only thing is if we hit
you're
it,
gonna bring it
he
around, you have
cans.
to
If I
bury it a
can
little
back,
bit.
He also doesn't really score too.
Yes.
I
just,
think I like this
delicate,
run. I'm
like
seeing
when I'm
it.
throwing shitty, it's that same soft kind of baby release. Yeah, baby.
Okay.
So we hear Matt and Ryan talking about a couple different options and what those options will mean, what Stewart will likely play if they're in that
Like,
spot.
Ray
He's
Hughes got
talking
himself
about
in trouble
if we
here.
make the hit and they make the freeze and I make the freeze, which is, I think, again, if you're a young curler and you're just learning, it's really important to listen to skips when they're talking about things like that. It's not just about what we're going to do, it's what they're going to do after. And then after talking about all those options, we heard Matt say just as he was going away, I'd like to throw the draw. It's what I'm seeing, which again is really important as the person that's throwing, especially as a skip and a last rock thrower, to throw the shot that you're seeing, especially if it's similar risk levels, similar difficulty levels, to just play and make the shot that you think you want is most likely.
Felt real close.
Yeah, play the shot you can make.
Yeah, exactly. That if you're playing a shot you don't see, it often makes it more likely that you are going to miss, and then it's not helpful to you either. So we see Matt's draw coming down here. He thought it was pretty good when he let it go, and he told his sweepers that. It does need to curl to get behind that guard, and it needs to stop. So just a little bit behind the tee line there. Likely undercurled just a little bit from what they wanted. It leaves Stewart a straight run back here. And that might get rid of all 3 yellows if you hit it in the right spot. And then all of a sudden, Team Thompson sitting 2 behind guards.
You hear Matt say, better if I didn't throw it, and you made the point, Jeff. Sometimes you give the opponent a shot. I don't think it's worse than if he didn't throw it.
Yeah,
Stewart still has to make the run back.
Yeah, it's hard to feel bad about leaving your opponent to run back triple on your 3 rocks that are in the 4-foot. But I think that's just a lot of respect from Matt towards Stewart. That
True.
We've seen him over the years make a lot of these shots. He can throw the big weight. He's got great sweepers.
Set that one out a hair. Makes contact, but only gets 1 of the yellows.
Yeah.
He even got a little bit unlucky with the back yellow there, that it didn't end up 3rd shot. It still stuck around for 2nd shot. So Matt's got a chance here to put a rock in a good spot.
I guess the only thing is we're guaranteed a force, as long as I.
It looked like it was.
Like obviously, I could walk down and place it. This is the best shot.
I was worried if I was a bit wide coming on his straight it was there.
If we guard
It's
the
safe,
red,
basically exactly where I let it go.
he can't stick this for 2. I guess, yeah. But so I guess you're thinking we guard the.
Talking about playing the hit and roll is probably ideal, but it's a little risky. You don't want to run it back into your
I
own.
don't think this is worth it though, because it doesn't change his shot. Yeah, I mean, he might be able to make this double. It's so straight down there, though. Yeah. It's a hot break.
Guarding the hole, putting another one in.
It's a really funny conversation when you've decided that you likely want to guard something, but then you have to figure out what you should be guarding. And we saw Matt last night. His first instinct was to guard, and he chose what he was going to guard. And after he threw it, the opposing team threw a different shot.
Yeah.
And then it let Matt realize, like, oh, geez, maybe I wasn't guarding the right shot in the first place.
Not much conversation happening on the other team. They're singing.
Stewart is just whistling Dixie out there.
Yeah.
He's probably got a good idea of what he'd like to throw. So if nothing changed right now, what he'd probably throw in a second option.
And he's losing the game if he misses it.
The hit through the hole
Tight right
looks
there.
pretty good for 2, but it is a tight pour.
So I think Matt's decided
That's
to try and
minimum,
throw
Ryan. I
the
need middle.
tight guard
which
just off the
he
center
might-
line,
might force
possibly
me to tap
blocking
them.
the run back on the red that's in the
go
top
in the
12,
guard,
but
right? Like if
also
he's just playing
possibly
center.
blocking the
Yes.
straight
Little
draws through the
less,
hole
actually.
to maybe get a single point. And again,
Yeah,
it's one
try
of
to be in
those
front of the red.
in-betweeners, and I think as
Yeah,
the
if
thrower,
he
you
could
really
walk
have to
down a
decide
corner,
which
freeze
one of
it on
those
that
you
red
want.
half
What are
on
you
the inside,
guarding?
That would be like amazing. But on that line, don't want to leave him that double through the hole though. Little less.
Yes, they're guarding that hole. Probably think that's the easiest
Speak
shot.
quick here. Don't kill it out of my hand, Luke.
Here, Matt, remind his sweepers of that. I think that's a cue that
Line's
they
good.
use. Don't kill it on the sweep because they're seeing sweepers
Luke, if you can.
maybe have the tendency to sweep a little early and wreck the line.
And I think it's just a recognition of how friendly the ice is to sweepers. So if you were to, as the sweeper, if you see the rock just a little bit differently as they're releasing it, you might be inclined to really sweep hard off the start, and it might really take the curl out of it.
A little heavy, but that was one of the other options they were talking about.
Yeah, well, so we saw Jeff Marr come down and say, well, why aren't we just drawn right to the top 4? Isn't that the best shot? And then we see the delivery here in the throw, and we see Jeff Marr sweep it right to the top 4, exactly where he suggested maybe the team should throw it. So always funny when sweepers get their way one way or the other.
Back 12.
Is this the tap on the
Yeah,
red?
his shot made the race a little easier.
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
think that's what Stewart's calling.
Yeah,
I
you
think
can
it
hit
might
a
be
little
the-
high side into the side of the yellow.
Yeah, I think promoting this rock is the only way to get something close to the button, which is what you need right now.
I assume so. I don't know what else he'd play.
So this certainly isn't an easy shot, and it's definitely not an easy shot against 3.
Whoa. Whoa.
So the sweepers are trying to make sure that it's got the right weight.
Starting to move now. Up backing.
It's got a curl.
I don't want to know if there's a hole there, but it looks like it might be a steal.
That top yellow looks like it's shot rock, and it might be for 2.
I just won yellow, yeah. I was lucky it wasn't 2.
Had to curl a hair more or a hair
That's a
less,
millimeter
but
away from the two.
almost found that little hole there. And I think that would be a steal of 1.
Yeah, stay
So
focused.
Team Manuel will, after 6, lead 4-1 over Thompson. 2 ends to go here in one of 4 quarterfinal matches at the Stu Cells 1824 Halifax Classic.
It's tough to do that.
We
I'm
were
able to see
the,
sheet 4, actually. And it looks like Team Dexter scored 2 points in sheet 5. So they are currently up 5-1. And Team Skanes has the hammer playing the 6th end.
Grattan and Murphy. Murphy with a single in 4 to tie things
Line's
up at 3
nice.
apiece. Grattan with a single in
Jeff all
5.
day.
Now
Curling
leads
early.
Murphy 4-3 after 5. And Brent
Hard, Jeff.
McDougall, another single
Hard
on the
everything.
board, but he'll still trail. I think that's a 4
Yeah, 4 to
Top
2.
4.
2.
Top 4. Easy, 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 easy.
down from Gushu.
Real nice, Ryan. Good sweeping, guys.
2 ends to go, 3-point lead. Team Manuel, they're going to want to keep things very clean. So here's the corner guard from Michael. And that will stop just short of the rings, and the tight guard coming up from Ryan Abraham. Trying to keep things on the center line. Ryan's first shot there, top 4
Top
foot,
12.
really nice.
Jeff, if you can.
How'd that sound?
Stay down. Line's tight. It's going to over
So we've got Team Manuel here trying to recreate the line that they had last end. They've got
Just
their
stay
first
down,
rock
stay
in a
down.
better position to put
Okay.
pressure on
Okay, let's
Team Thompson
Real
here.
nice, Ryan.
So 2 great shots from Ryan Abraham.
It's a perfect setup.
One's not the end of the world. Pretty bad.
All right, so we're switching the collar down at the other end. I think Michael's going to be putting up another guard, just like we saw last end. Guarding his own, most likely. So Michael's putting this one closer to the hog line, and like Jeff mentioned last end, guarding his own in order to make the double peel a little trickier.
Line's good. No, Rick. He said no. I think you can curl it a bit. Yep.
Another one's so tight that you have a little bit of room on this one. There you see them staggered. You like to have the one higher up, a little
go
closer
through.
to the center line. Makes the come around more natural. This one is a throw through, so fewer rocks in play for Team Manuel. That's always good. It makes your lead feel great when your second throws a rock
they're
through.
just really confident that their rocks are in the right spot right now, and they need. They're going to wait for Team Thompson to make a good shot to force them to go after it. I do think we're seeing that happen this end, the 7th end. We're one end further on than the 6th. They're 1 point up, 1 point more up than they were before. So it's really helping Matt make a decision to play this end a bit differently.
I don't know if it matters which is done first.
There's a come around call as well, or the soft weight hit and roll. Probably not removing either Yellowstone, but team would like to play the come around, try and make that first. Team Manuel can peel after this, so I think that's what we'll see.
Missile?
Maybe a little heavy.
Yeah, it looks to be really sailing. It's not curling at all, which is never a good sign if you're trying to throw a
God.
tight draw. Doesn't sound like Stewart is very impressed by the hog to stop time he just got there on that rock.
Yeah, we haven't been talking about those split times, but skips are pretty much always timing hog to hog, the long split, because you can get an idea of different paths in the ice and how they're running. Single peel there from Jeff Marr.
Yep.
He can't sweep with that broom.
Sorry.
That's his throwing device.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone has seen that as he's throwing. He has an old hair broom.
What?
With a
Wrapped
whole
up
bunch
with
of electrical
tape.
tape on it, yeah.
There. Like, you probably would have almost left you, unless you had perfect.
So we see
You almost
Team
would've just
Thompson
left yours.
here trying to make a little bit of magic out of nothing. They're drawn behind the 2 yellow rocks that are already in the house, which is such a tricky shot. You've got to be very precise on your weight. You're thrown to the back 8 of the back 12. The line's got to be perfect so that it curls around rocks that are already in the house.
Yeah, and Colton has to adjust his weight. He threw that one through the rings on his first. Now this one coming up real light. I think it's still pretty slick going to the wings, like throwing inside out and then taking some weight off, of course, in the draw path. It's beat down, and there it ends halfway guard.
18 feet heavy to
Think rip it this
18
way.
feet light. So
Yeah, I
those
think
are
you're right,
plus
Selena. I
minus
think
of
we do just see a little bit of a different path there. It's very unlike Colton to have
Around the
2
yellows?
polar opposite shots
Yeah.
there, one light, one heavy. But we did see him go from an inside out that he threw heavy to an outside in that he threw short. And that might have a lot to do with the pass of the ice right now.
Almost made contact with that second red stone. Could have
Close to
chipped
the
it in
double.
any thinner.
We see Team Thompson here going for the same shot again, and that's likely why
Swept
Team
for the
Manuel
double.
Oh, yeah.
decided to hit
Ballsy line call,
the
but it was there.
center guard instead of the
I thought he was
corner
tapping
guard
it
because
right
they
behind
are
it all.
likely expecting Team Thompson to do this shot regardless.
Line's
It
tight.
really is their only chance to generate some extra points and force Team Manuel to play a tricky shot that they might get
Line's
a miss
gonna
out
be
of.
perfect if the weight's there, Riggs. Stay down, Rig.
Saying it's a hair light. This curls nicely. This was the
Curl when you can, yep.
fifth
All the way
end
to back
draw
leg.
that Stewart made
I
nicely,
don't-
and then
I-
Matt made his nice
I
run
don't think we
backs.
care. We gotta remove the top four one anyways. Great shot.
That works well. Looks to be buried, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's really the best that you could do. And I know you might be looking
Like,
at it thinking,
if you-
well, it's in the back
if you
12.
make
What
that,
does
it
that
takes
accomplish?
this out
Its
of
third
play.
shot. But what it does is it makes Team Manuel think about what they're going to do and possibly
Yeah.
generate a miss out of them playing a tough shot.
I don't love the guard because if we don't get perfect and we leave them
The
something
second
like
one at
that,
least the other team had to throw at.
I think we just make it and take it out of play.
Yeah, it's been like a game of just all hits.
What-
so
what do
we
you
didn't really
think?
Have much warm up. Yeah. There was like four ends that just.
I mean, the peel's the obvious call, but it's doing them
Here's Stewart
nothing.
talking about
There
the
can
first half
another
of the
one here
game was
anyway.
all hits, and so Colton
If Luke
hasn't had a
makes this right
chance.
now,
It's understandable why he didn't have his draw weight here in the seventh end of an 8-end
You
game.
like it?
Yeah, and that's a really important thing to highlight there, that
Even if you do
Colton just had a bad end, and he's now down chatting with Stewart, a longtime teammate. They went to the Briar together a couple years ago, and
Yeah.
Stewart's just reassuring him, like, I understand, I get it. And we're going to need some shots at you in the next end if we're going to win this still, so let's stick to it.
What are we on? That was Kendall's. Yeah, Kendall's first. So we're pretty late in the end.
It's always helpful as a thrower to hear from the skip why you missed. It might be a little hard on your ego sometimes, but it's really important. Like if you didn't throw it well, or if you threw it really heavy, sometimes it's more obvious to the thrower than
Oh,
not.
yeah.
But sometimes you really just need to be told what you had done wrong, or why it didn't work the way you thought it was going to. So we see Team Manuel, they were trying to come down and cap that red all the way to the back 12 and freeze on that red. They didn't quite get there.
Or this.
Yeah, I think those two yellows are now protecting that red pretty well. 4 shots left.
I like that.
And Stewart's now calling one of the shots that Matt was worried about, which is the double and roll behind the corner guard, which puts them in a very good spot.
Yeah, I don't even know if they have to make the double or if they do make the double to make this. I think this is with soft weight.
Yeah, and I think you're right,
Just a
Sven.
board,
I think
maybe
the
soft
roll behind the
control.
corner is more important
Much more. Yeah.
than making the double.
Yep.
Here, yep, out of his hand, though. Don't want to come up to nose on this.
Exactly. You just have to make whatever you threw, and
That was probably the hardest shot.
you think?
Half a rock right now.
It might be a complete disaster.
Uh-oh.
Just not giving him a chance. He's just soft.
Yeah, we've heard
Oh,
that
now
all
we're
game
sitting
from
3.
Kendall. Or from Stewart about Kendall. Kendall's a
I
little
know,
soft
and we're
on
probably
his
never giving up
hits.
more than 2
Yeah.
if I rip that.
We hear
I don't
Matt
even know, like, realistically.
almost exasperated and
He's gonna have
still
to make
sitting
that
3. He just
double.
doesn't know how to make the Red Rocks
Roll
go
over there,
away
never
and
knows
not
it.
leave
He's
an
gonna have to make
opportunity for
some
Team
soft
Thompson to
shots.
try and
I don't
sneak
like
something
that.
in there.
Throw it so you take it off at the release point, which is the wrong way to do
I'm
it.
pretty happy being for sure up 1 here.
The ice is sensitive to release. You hear Stewart saying to Kendall, you're trying not to overthrow it, so you're
this is smart.
doing a soft release and just not being positive. But it's unforgiving. He's getting all the curl.
Oh, come around. Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're seeing Matt here. He's just going to play a peel on that Red Rock that's in the top 12. Again, he's trying to leave it as open as possible and force Stewart to make the hard shot to try and generate extra points.
And you hear Matt say, too, he's happy to give up, most you give up is a 2. And Team Thompson, they're probably happy to get a 2 at this point.
Might remove one of the yellows.
It's a pretty good shot
Right,
there
like, 'cause
from Matt.
I guess we knows then.
It's like the same difficulty if you double it. I feel like it's hard
So to bring that
I
back
like-
right
I
into
think I
play,
like
because you
this.
got to assume Matt's going to hit one of
to
these
get
reds.
this
You're
three, just a little bit.
probably
And then
trying to
that's a
remove
perfect
2
guard. I do
yellows
have
on this
that.
shot.
I think if he plays that,
Yeah.
we look at the yellows and figure out the best way to tap them around. Worst case scenario, make him get rid of 3 rocks.
So he's
to
playing
score
the
his
little
3.
tap, saving the double for his next shot.
I don't think we could throw
Yeah, I
the
think,
guard.
he, I
Just-
think he's trying to
Maybe
tap
we can
that
make
back
Guard's
yellow
gonna be
so that
somewhat
his
decent,
red
and if it
rocks
is
are
perfect, I have that
3rd
red
and
slash
4th.
also
But
just don't
leaving
really
the,
love the other
the
options,
yellow
just
that
don't
he's
really
tapping
love
in the back there
just
as
stay in the
5th
eight.
shot.
That's actually
And he's
So-
hoping that Matt leaves him an opportunity to make a
that
double
one,
on those
yeah.
2 yellows and score 3 somehow.
Yeah, he's saying Matt might guard if he makes this little tap back, but Matt's pretty confident. I don't know that he wouldn't freeze either. It's the only chance to give up
Yeah.
3, I suppose, but he'd have to miss it so badly.
Sorry, 2-3.
Yeah, and I think I overheard Matt and Ryan talking about if he makes this shot, this little tap back, and it leaves both yellows 1st and 2nd, obviously, how they might throw a 3rd into the 4-foot and tap their yellows around and make it very difficult to get rid of all 3.
Yeah, it seems like Stewart thinks he'd guard, but I just
Looks
don't see
like-
Matt guarding.
You gotta move it.
They want to move that back yellow. Don't have to move it
Have
far.
to move it.
Oh, they moved it, but not enough.
Okay, now I think we might guard.
What a game of
changes
cat
things.
and mouse. They're changing their...
Doesn't really accomplish anything.
I don't
if we
see
don't
how he
get-
scores 3 if we guard. Yeah, yeah.
So we see Matt now
Same spot
guarding
you
the,
made.
the
I
yellow
guess
rock
if
that's
he's
right
a
on the
big
center
guard,
line,
he's
which
got
is the
no
one you'd have to hit
chance
first to be able to make the double. And he's only calling that shot because Stewart was unable to tap that yellow back and sit 3rd and 4th. So Matt's feeling pretty confident that the max he can give up is 2 points,
Okay, guys. Make a good one here.
which leaves him up 1 with the hammer playing the last end. So he's got a good chance to make a guard here and force Stewart to play a really tough shot.
The guard on
This
the
is a
center,
really
yeah.
easy shot. Like, we still screwed
Because
it up.
even just trying to make that tough draw for 1, that doesn't leave Stewart in a good spot because of the scoreboard in the end we're in.
If I make
Yeah.
this, honestly, nothing besides that angle slash.
Yeah, the one time
Yeah,
you'll see a
tight. Don't
team
jump it,
pretty
Jeff.
happy
It's
to
pretty
give up
straight
2
down here.
is in a situation like this.
So I think like right where
But
we
then
wanna hit
Stewart
it on
still
that
has to make the shot.
appeal.
Pretty slick here.
I don't think taking 1's good enough, is it? Okay. Yeah.
Take 1, Stewart's saying, and you have to
Don't
steal
kill it, don't
2.
Taking 1 is probably like a
In the eighth.
0.01%
Tight's fine.
chance of winning the game.
Can't be in, Jeff.
So we hear Matt in constant communication with his
Can't be
sweepers
it.
about not
Line's
over-sweeping.
perfect.
He's feeling pretty comfortable with the line.
Sit.
A pick would be
Sit.
good.
Yeah, they wanted to leave that out just in. Is okay.
I don't know if it's there.
It's pretty good. I
I
don't.
like the slash.
I don't think it gives Stewart a chance here to go down the center. I think he is going to have to play off the corner guard into the
That's the
center.
It's a
only
little
shot for
deep, got
3.
the little bit extra.
I don't know
curl.
what they're looking at for 3.
Yeah, I threw it real pure. Here.
I don't think I can make this one escape the 8-foot and stick my shooter. No. So this is a quarter. Third.
No idea what the shot for 3 is.
This is a Hail Mary if I've ever seen one.
I think they're playing the slash for the 2.
Yeah, I don't see an opportunity for 3 here unless they get
Yeah, and there's
really
a chance he gets the
fortunate.
back one.
Oh,
so
I
that-
know. I think the top yellow
I think it's
might
the yellow
chip the
that's
back.
shot right
yellow.
now.
Yeah.
Might hit the red that's in the back
Short of
onto
a
the
brick.
yellow that's in
There's
the
a
back
chance that it,
and maybe spill
if
out.
we hit it right in the
Maybe.
pocket,
Yeah.
He's going to have to
goes onto the
throw
back
a
shoulder,
rocket,
we get
and he's
through.
going to have to hit it in the perfect spot.
Yeah, you hear him just saying that there's a chance, but playing for 2. 3 would be a little bit of luck on your side, I think. They just say that because if they make it for 3, then they can say they saw it.
Yeah.
Needs to curl. Oh, and over the top.
Just through the middle there, so that's going to be 2 more yellows for Team Manuel.
And I think we're seeing handshakes here.
Nice, Mike.
those run backs were unreal.
Rocks being
Yeah,
pulled
those are
back.
sick.
We don't see, I shouldn't say
Good game, guys.
handshakes.
Good
No
luck.
handshakes
Yeah,
anymore.
no touches.
Jeff. But it will be a win for Matt Manuel.
I thought they had a good crack.
So he'll move on to the semifinals tomorrow morning.
And I'll tell you who he's playing here in 1 second. It will be the winner of Dexter and Skanes. They are in the 7th end. Dexter leads 4-2. And catch all the other scores online. We will be back at 9:30 in the morning with our 2 semifinal games, of course streamed thanks to 360 Live on CBC and Bell TV1. Thanks everyone for joining, and thanks to our presenting sponsors, Steel Subaru, partner sponsors, Superline Fuels, Stu Cells Realty, Clark Painter at Manulife Securities, and all of the organizers here at the Stu Cells 1824 Halifax Classic.
Thanks.
Jeff Wilson, thanks for joining me. I'm Selena Thompson, and until
Really
next
good
time.
game, guys.